the man who is prominent on NHL Network, host NHL Now, my friend EJ Hradek joins us on the Adam Gold Show. Honestly, I've just missed you, and I've wanted to talk with you, so I figured I'll just reach out.
Well, it's good timing because I heard the little intro there, and, you know, I had, when I was younger, I was trying to get a scholarship, cornhole scholarship, but it's they're very, like the NCAA was very tight back in the day with those things, and it's very difficult to come across, but, you know.
We're not that far from, I think, cornhole becoming an NCAA recognized sport. And there will be scholarships available, so you can always go back to school.
Pillow fighting, yes.
I think that's in the Olympics. I think pillow fighting is going to the Olympics. It'll be a judged event. So let's just start with defense, EJ, because I know you guys and I've seen the segment that you did on Jaccob Slavin. And I don't know where you personally ranked Jaccob Slavin. I mean, I would have put him a little bit higher than 8th on the list. But I think, and you said it, the Four Nations face-off opened a lot of people's eyes to what we see on a night-in, night-out basis where Slavin controls the game with his skating and his stick work to absolutely erase scoring chances. It was a masterclass during Four Nations.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I watched the whole league, so I see these things, and I always laugh when, I go back to years ago when Scott Niedermayer went to Anaheim, and, I had seen Scott Niedermayer because he's been multiple Cup champions.
Right.
I'd been with the Devils right in my backyard, and I got to know him, and, and he was an interesting guy for me because when I first saw him, I had been scouting, was prior to going to ESPN. And, I was learning, the scouting and learning, watching and identifying, different traits in players. And, he wasn't a guy that, would bang his stick after a play. He just wasn't outwardly emotional. And one of the veteran guys reminded me, it's like, hey, still waters run deep. And Scott Niedermayer is a real competitor because I was wondering, is this guy, really into it or not? And, in the end, he was. And I knew how good a player he was. So he went to Anaheim, and, people out west who didn't really watch him as much were like, boy, this Scott Niedermayer is excellent. I'm like, yeah, he really is. He really is. And the same Jaccob Slavin, you guys just see it night after night after night. I mean, he's a terrific player. He's one of the very best defensemen in the league. And so, for me, it's not new. But,
right.
Who got to watch him on a bigger stage? Because, the Hurricanes have been a really good team, but they haven't gotten to the final.
Right.
They haven't won the Cup. And in their appearances in the Eastern Conference Final, let's say it hasn't gone well. Right? So,
yes.
Those are the moments when people would be seeing him generally. Now they saw him in the Four Nations and obviously very, very impressed. And then, it'll be more of the same, I'm sure, in the Olympics.
And by the way, EJ Hradek is from the NHL Network is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. You were correct in that the games where Carolina has played Edmonton during the regular season, in the Connor McDavid and Jaccob Slavin era, and those eras basically run adjacent to each other, that McDavid's numbers against Carolina, although I think he did fairly well this year, but McDavid's numbers against Carolina have not been anything close to what they are against everybody else. And that is Jaccob Slavin's matchup, 10 times in a row. Always. It's always going to be Slavin and whoever the partner is. In the last 3 years, it's been Brent Burns. The years before that, one it was Tony DeAngelo. That was, Jacob had a great year that year too. And then before that, it was Dougie Hamilton. Before you go all the way back, and it was a lot of times Brett Pesce. But he gets those matchups, the toughest matchup every single night, and he just goes out, does his job, and goes to, and comes back the next day. And he calls no attention to himself at all. And that's probably to his own detriment. But I saw the list. If you don't have a lot of points, it's hard to get high on that list. When do we stop that?
Well, I mean, I think that, let's go through some of the names. I'll be honest, for full transparency, I do not vote on the list.
Oh, you don't have a vote?
A lot of the research people, I could have a vote if I wanted a vote.
Okay.
I prefer not to, because I'm not a big lists guy.
Okay.
Because, what we're just going to endeavor now is a conversation. It's a matter of opinion. It's a matter of what we prefer, right? These guys are all great players, right, that we're talking about. They're all really and they have different strengths and weaknesses. Some have very few weaknesses, really. But, at the top, we have Cale Makar, who in the end, and I said it on the show, in the end, may be the best defenseman ever to play.
Yes.
Just based on his. Now, is he the best defender? Probably not. But was Bobby Orr the best defender? I don't know. Let's go back and look at the highlights from 60 years ago. But, he had the puck all the time, right? The things that Cale Makar can do, I've been watching the game a long time. Very few guys can do that, the things he does. And, and then Quinn Hughes, the same thing. I watch the Canucks a lot. The guy has the puck all the time, and he actually, people say, well, he's small. He defends really well with his stick.
Yep.
He is a very dogged defender. He defends better than you think. And so you go through these list of, guys we had maybe in front, and that's the, consensus, because I'm sure some guys had Slavin higher even. I mean, he's a really terrific player. I think if you ask, would you rather have Makar or who would you rather have, I think most people are going to say Makar.
Everybody should.
And I think most people will probably say Quinn Hughes just because he drives a lot of the play. Because he has the puck all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers with Quinn Hughes with the Canucks with him on the ice and with him not on the ice are kind of mind-boggling when you look at them. The difference that it makes. And so, you go through these guys. At the end of the day, I always say, you do a draft, you take this guy, I take this guy. If I end up with Jaccob Slavin, I'm really happy. He's really, really good. That's why I don't love these lists, because it's really a fine line that we are trying to cut, and they are different players, and it depends how you want to structure your team and the things that are important to you and who are the other players on your team. So, he's one of the very best defenders in the league, and you know what? When you're trying to win the game late, and in those situations where you're trying to shut somebody down, or you're playing against a McDavid, where you need somebody that can match his speed in the neutral zone and has such a good long stick, you want Jaccob Slavin out there.
Yeah.
So they're all different. Situations are all different. Teams are all different. But he's a great player, and I'm just really glad that through the Four Nations, people were paying, a little bit more attention on the bigger, on the more national scale. I think the people who watch hockey obviously know what he's about, but it's good that other people got to see him, and they're going to, like I say, they're going to see him again at the Olympics. And, those Connor McDavid games, I can't watch every game all year long, right? It's just impossible for anybody. But those stand out to me because I remember, and this goes back a couple of years now, several years, to your point, right, that they've been in the league a while.
Yeah.
I look forward to watching those games because that was a great matchup.
Yeah, and that carried over to Four Nations, where you saw Slavin against McDavid, Slavin against McKinnon, and McKinnon scored a lot of offense, but none of it came against Slavin. It was all against different matchups. EJ Hradek joining us here on the Adam Gold Show from NHL Network. We don't have a ton of time left, but let me get to a couple of quick things. I know there were some friends of mine that were upset that Seth Jarvis didn't make top 20 wingers. I was not, because when I did my own list, and we have a mole here who used to work at NHL Network, my friend Ben, you know him very well, who alerted me to this, and he was surprised that Seth wasn't in it. When I made my own list, I'm like, yeah, I guess Seth could be, but I had him just outside. I wasn't crazy about Alexander Ovechkin, but that's another story altogether. But I think Seth, if Seth can put up another season like he did this year, just get off to a little bit better start offensively. Seth's going to be, at the very least, in the top 20 winger list, unless he's not playing center full-time next year, which I guess is a possibility. But maybe he'll make the top 20 center list. Your thoughts on Jarvis?
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, he's a really good player. I'd have to go through all, you go through all the wingers, and it's, that's a tricky one, who plays right wing, who plays left wing, who plays, sometimes plays center and then shows up on the wing, right? So those are, all different things. And again, it's, what do you like? What are the things that, that you value as someone who's participating and voting on these things? But he's a really good player, and he's a guy just off the top of my head, without sitting here with a pad and paper and rifling through wingers. I would say where you had him is probably about right. Just maybe on the outside, or if somebody had him at 19 or 20, I could understand that as well. That's kind of where I feel he is, just anecdotally right now off the top. But I think there's certainly room for growth.
Yeah.
For Seth, he's a young guy, and he shows up in important games, which is a good sign. So, I think there's definitely room, and you're right. I mean, who knows? Maybe he gets moved into the middle, maybe because he wants to be there, or maybe just because they need him there.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I mean, it's the endless search for a second center in Carolina, right? So, I mean, if he could play the position and be effective and be a good player there, I mean, with Aho as a left shot and Jarvis as a right shot, that might be a really good way to go. But it depends. Guys are on the wing for a reason. It's because it's not like any coaches that had them before said, oh, boy, let's just put them on the wing. All these guys get tried when they're younger at, most likely at center, because they're obviously terrifically talented players, and some guys just fit better on the wing.
Hradek, before we let you go, when does the top 20 centers segment air?
That's a good question, because I'm not really sure. I know we'll do I think we do the top 50 players is what we've done in the past.
Right.
And now this year we just did the quarterfinal roster, or the quarter century roster.
Uh-huh.
Which I thought, Ben's compadre, Lawrence Goldstein, who is one of our stats research wizards and just a great person and puts in so much time and everything. He had a great idea for that, because, a lot of people have taken a crack at these quarter century teams, and it gets tricky in the early, because you have these crossover players that played, Mario Lemieux played into the 2000s, right? So, and the way we settled that was that Lawrence came up with the idea of just only having players that they had to have, their whole careers had to have been played inside of that 25 years.
Gotcha.
So like Nick Lidstrom could not be part of that, right?
Right.
Zdeno Chara could not be part of it, but it allowed us to do that team, and I thought that was an interesting show. I watched some of that. And I did not participate in that. And then also they're doing the top 25 under 25. And that's another, I would imagine, I think Seth Jarvis would be a good candidate for that show. So we've done some other things this year, which I think are interesting. And these things are all good for fodder for debate, as we have just demonstrated over the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, we can do top 25 players named Jarvis, or top 25 players named Seth. And he'll figure prominently in both lists.
I would think he would be probably number one.
Seth Jones would like a word. EJ
Hey, I got to just say one thing quick.
Sure.
Seth Jones, when it comes to that defense list, very interesting that the whole feeling about Seth Jones has changed dramatically, right? Because he went to Florida, he played really well, he had a better team around him. So, these lists, sometimes a lot of it depends where you are, because Jaccob Slavin's a great player, but if you put him on the Blackhawks last year, I don't know how much it would have mattered. Right?
That is very true.
Anyway.
That is very true. All right, EJ, because I know I'm going to miss you more, I'll call you again very soon.
All right, I look forward to it, and I am back out there on the cornhole circuit, so I'll see you at some point.
All right, watch out for EJ Hradek with the beanbags. He is the man.